Hey, strangers. Welcome to episode 15, the season finale of the Strange Sessions. I am your host, Krista. Well, I'm more of a co-host. The host is really...
No, I'm Kurt.
The great, the all-powerful...
Oh, I wish. I'm Kurt. No, we're just co-hosts. Neither of us
You do all the hard work. I just sit here and say witty things every once in a while.
That's hard, too.
Like getting punched in the mouth with a dead fish. Apparently that went over really well.
So how are you?
I'm good. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was really nice.
Are you all turkeyed out?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Actually, my favorite part is the stuffing.
I was just going to say I'm not stuffing out because I could eat stuffing every day.
I have some in my freezer still.
Oh, I love stuffing.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
But we hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. We weren't able to record last week because I had car issues. Mm-hmm. My car was in the shop for, I think, 3 days. And $1,300 worth of repairs, and I still got to go back for $400 more.
Bummer.
So we need to get a PayPal up for the for the podcast.
A GoFundMe.
You never know if like Elon Musk or somebody is listening and is like,
yeah.
"Hey, I got $2 billion to spare," and then they just drop it.
I saw a Tesla the other day. Does that count? Isn't he the creator of the Teslas?
Yes.
Car? Okay.
Yeah. But I don't think seeing one would.
Come on.
Well, maybe that person's
There's
rich
tons
too.
of them in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, but we should get a PayPal going because you don't know if millionaires are listening.
Well, sure. If you are, feel free to donate to this wonderful cause
so
known as
I'd have
the
a car
Strange
that would make it here all the time.
Yeah. But I'm glad that you have a safe vehicle to get here. That's important.
Thank you, because we were always concerned anytime it would rain because for some reason my car was all over the highway.
I know. We'd always be like, you want to text me when you get home so I know you're like alive and stuff? Yeah.
So now we should be okay. And I say that and I'll probably get in an accident on the way home.
Can you knock on some wood or something? Okay, good.
Okay.
Pretty sure this table's wood.
And we also want to apologize for releasing our unedited version of
I'd like to say you're welcome.
Yeah, it was a bonus. It was a bonus episode. Yeah, but it's funny because I was at work that night after we released it. And my friend Stephanie messaged me, and she said, I think you guys, did you guys mean to release this one? And I asked her why. And she said some stuff that I know I had edited out of there. And then she told me what the runtime was, and I was like, no, that was not the edited episode.
Man. That was my rookie move.
Yeah, but in the scheme of things, that wasn't that bad.
No, a couple people actually enjoyed it. So.
Yeah, and
a couple people didn't even notice when I mentioned it to them. They're like, "Oh, okay. I don't know. I thought it was kind of weird, but I thought that was the episode."
I feel like I generally don't edit a lot out, just like silent pauses. Mm-hmm. If we hear something in the hallway or we get up to close the door, turn the heater on, I edit that.
Or it takes you like 3 or 4 times to say a word.
Yes, I'm very good at that. Because I don't remember what I was trying to say, refocused or something like that. I murdered and had to do it like 3 times.
Yeah, I just know that you told me that was the case, and I was like 3 minutes in, and I'm like, nope, this is not the edited version right away because I couldn't remember Georgia Hardstark's name.
Yes.
And I remember you made it sound seamless, like I perfectly remembered who they were, and I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah, I think Stephanie told me too that she listened to the unedited one, and then she listened to the first part of the edited one and forgot that she already listened to it. And she said, wow, she said, you can really not tell that you edit some of this stuff out because it is kind of seamless.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
But if there was any episode where I didn't care that the unedited one got out, it was that one. Because sometimes we can get a little. Just tonight when we were just tonight when we were on beef jerky and fish. So
good thing this is all recorded. I'm saving it for my sexual assault lawsuit.
Oh God, that stuff is
craziness.
There's gonna be more coming out.
It's gonna be like nonstop.
I've heard some whispers of possible things that are going to be coming out in the next year that are going to be really bad.
Oh, really?
For certain people. Not me or Krista.
Yeah, we only sexually harass each other.
Yeah, we do. I don't think I wield a lot of power with this podcast that's going to, get me any...
You never know. We might have minions at some point.
That would be cool. As long as they're sane minions and not insane minions.
Yeah.
Sane ones would be better.
Yeah.
But what else is new? I officially unfollowed the Maura Murray Facebook groups because I don't know if things have been getting really bad.
Really?
Yeah. Well, just stuff like a lot of people are talking crap about Maggie.
Was she the one who did the documentary?
Yeah. Because a lot of people say that they totally swept the police involvement idea under the rug. And then, of course, people are insinuating that they're in cahoots with the police. And then her and John Smith had this big thing where she wrote a post about... He was mad because I guess he wasn't invited to this panel they just did. It was Maggie and that Art. And
was Art the
police guy.
Okay, who's John Smith?
He's one of the guys that's like been investigating this for years.
Oh, right. Okay.
He's the one that gave them the wood samples.
Yes. Okay.
But they had a panel just recently where it was Maggie and Art and the two podcast hosts, Lance and Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And John Smith wasn't invited to it. So he was upset, and then Maggie posted something about how he has a vendetta against the police because he used to be on the police force.
He was the one who used to be a cop. Okay.
And they released him, so she said he had a vendetta against the police. And then he put on Twitter that he has an agenda and not a vendetta, and then he hashtagged it "stupid tattooed bitch." Which,
damn.
Yeah.
I wonder who he's talking about.
Yeah, so that after that, I'm like, all right, I am taking a temporary break from all this because it's just... No, and you can't post something on there without everybody jumping down your throat if they don't agree with what you're saying.
The internet.
You know?
All full of warm fuzzies.
Yeah, I posted something about... I said something like, I personally find it hard to believe she was drinking in the car. She's driving on these... She knew she was going to be driving on these windy mountain roads in winter with an exhaust system that was kicking out smoke left and right that would be like a magnet to any police. Mm-hmm. And then somebody kind of jumped on me and said, well, didn't you see the documentary? Didn't you see that there were wine stains in the car?
Well, right, but an accident could cause something to break that would spill wine.
It's just that anytime you bring something up, people just jump on it, so I'm just temporarily done with it. And it's like people are forgetting what this whole thing is even for.
It's to find more money.
Yeah, and people are forgetting that, and it's more to prove that they're right or to talk crap about everybody else. I
do agree that they downplayed the police involvement, though.
I agree, too.
I feel like they got in a room with them, asked them some questions, and took everything they said at face value.
Yeah.
Like they didn't... It's like she didn't have the balls to really...
Yeah. To press them on the issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Right. And he was pretty quiet considering the fact that he's like a former U.S. Marshal. But
yeah. So it's kind of a mess right now. So yeah, I temporarily step back from that. I think the general consensus now is that somebody random picked her up and killed her.
Yeah, agreed.
I've been watching that Hunt for the Zodiac Killer.
Okay.
I love that. I'm totally fascinated with the Zodiac Killer. I mean, I'd like to have a show about that at some point.
Oh, yeah.
An episode about that.
Cool.
But other than that...
I'm watching old reruns of Destination Truth.
Nice.
I love that show.
Nice. I just found out they're going to have, what's his show? Expedition Unknown?
Yeah.
In January, they're going to do an episode on a book called The Secret.
Oh,
which it's not the self-help book.
It's not?
No, this is, that like one of my weird things that I'm just like totally fascinated with that I've written articles for on that mysterious writing site is books where somebody hides a treasure or something like that and puts hints in the book so people can find the treasure. And The Secret was written, I think, 1984. It was written in the early 80s. This guy went around the country and buried casks that had a key in there, and if you retrieved the cask and got the key, you could exchange it for a gemstone. And 2 of them have been found, and the rest are still buried. The other 10 are still buried. So people are still looking for them. There's still message boards where people are trying to figure out from the pictures where these things are hidden and stuff, and he's going to have an episode on that.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I kind of love anything Josh Gates does.
Yeah, Josh Gates is awesome.
He's hilarious.
Maybe we'll have him on the show at some time.
Sure. Yep.
We'll see.
His show mentioned my hometown in a bubble.
Wow.
That sounds super. Didn't we talk about
Yeah,
this?
we talked about that. So yeah, maybe...
I feel like we have a connection.
See what you can do. Get him on the show.
Okay. I'll work on that. I have an in.
Yeah.
It's 40-year-old cheese. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was a jelly bean flavor we had last week.
Yeah, right.
People like the jelly bean sampling, so
would have been better than the dead fish.
the dead fish one was just god-awful.
Yeah,
that
one
was horrible.
horrible.
But we made it to our 15th episode, our final episode for this season.
Super exciting.
This is going to be listener stories.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
I am too.
Some of these I know, some that you're going to
don't.
read I haven't, so I'm interested to hear
And I'm
this.
going to talk about 2 dream things that I've had. I'll talk about that at the end.
Okay.
I can't remember if I talked about these with you. I know some of my friends know one of the dreams really well because it's like really weird and specific. Mm-hmm. But we'll see.
Maybe you did. We'll find out.
And we're going to take a hiatus until we start the next season, probably late January, early February, sometime in there.
Yeah.
Krista and I are going to get together in January and record 2 short episodes that we can use as filler in case there's a snowstorm one week.
Yeah.
Which is very likely here in Wisconsin.
Sure is. Although it's December 1st tomorrow and it's like 40 degrees out.
It was 55 degrees when I drove here.
Was it 55?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So it's weirdly
we have no
nice.
Snow. It's crazy.
So we're going to get hammered by some storm of the century. And we are going to start the next season with another Missing 411 episode. Yeah. Because everybody loved that. Mm-hmm. And kind of putting together a list of other topics. My friend Pat that I work with at the factory said he would like us to do the flat earth theory.
Oh, I actually was just thinking this the other day because I saw an article about celebrities.
That's like a big thing now. And he says that there's somebody I work with that is dead set convinced that the earth is flat.
I don't understand those people.
I don't either. So we're going to talk about that. That might be our second episode.
Okay.
But I also want to do Skinwalker Ranch. We want to do an EVP episode.
Yeah.
So we're getting stuff lined up for next season.
Yeah.
Maybe end it with another stories.
I like
listener stories if we could get more.
Maybe we'll double our listenership by then.
That would be awesome. It would be up to like 30 people.
Woo! Breaking iTunes records every day.
But seriously, thank you everybody that sent in your stories. I badgered a couple of you and you sent stuff in. So
we even have an audio clip to
We
play.
do have an audio clip. That'll be our first one. We'll do that one first.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah, I like it.
So this first one is sent in by Sarah, our Canadian listener that we love and adore. She said we can make fun of Canada because we're
talk just like that.
We're like South Canada. We're Wisconsin.
We're Southern Canada.
We are Southern Canada. So she sent in an audio clip, which was awesome. So we will play that for you right now. So here is Sarah.
Okay, so these 2 stories are both secondhand. They're my mother's stories. I'm telling on her behalf. And the first story is going to seem more like a story about my mother and my family. But it's really the context of the ghost sighting that makes it a good story. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'll just dive right in. When I was 5, one of my brothers was born. He was the oldest of my younger brothers. And he passed away. It was a very long, hard 3 months for my parents. He was very sick the whole time. He was in the hospital most of his life. My parents spent most of their life and also the hospital he was in was about an hour away. So they spent most of their time either commuting back and forth or staying in hotels. They couldn't buy groceries because they never knew if they were going to be around long enough to eat them or where they would be at any given moment. They were spending extra money on childcare for me, etc. So it was not only a tough time on them emotionally and physically, but also financially as well. And they were really struggling. So they ended up very behind in rent. Understandably. As well, they had to take off extra time from work and everything to be at the hospitals and at all these appointments and stuff. So, just a tough time. And my mom, as you can imagine, there's a lot of sleepless nights. So anyways, like I said, they were behind on rent and the landlord tried to evict them. So my parents, they begged and pleaded to stay. They're like, no, we'll get you the money we owe you. We'll figure it out. But there's no way that we can scrounge up first and last for somewhere else if we still owe you all this money. And, we just can't deal with the stress of trying to find a place right now and take care of our 5-year-old while we're spending most of our time at the hospital with our newborn. Like, please let us stay. And the guy was like, no, sorry. Nope. So he brought them to court over it. So my parents were worried, obviously. I mean, the guy was kind of being a dick, but I mean, they did owe him the money, and it was well within his right to bring him to court. And so they were really worried, of course. So the night before that was another one of those sleepless nights. My mom was laying in bed trying to get some sleep, be well rested for the next morning, because who knew? And she swears that clear as day, she saw her Aunt Sally walk into her bedroom and sit at the foot of her bed and say, "Don't worry." Oh shit, what'd she say? She said, "Don't worry. It's all going to be okay." And then she stayed there and she sat there until my mom fell asleep, and she felt comforted in her presence and she was able to sleep. And then the next morning when they went to go to court was actually delayed by about 45 minutes because the judge had fallen ill and had to call in sick, and they had to find another judge to replace him. So after all that, they did everything. The judge comes in, he asks her what's going on. And so my mom and dad went into their whole story of why, they have a 5-year-old they have to take care of. Their son's been in the hospital. They're traveling back and forth. They both had to take lots of time off work. They just don't have the income right now. And they just really need to stay in their home, but they'll find a way to, the whole thing. And so the judge turns to the landlord and he says, "Did you know about the situation? Were you made aware of this?" And he's like, "Yes." And then the judge says, "Okay, well, in that case, you must be the most heartless man I know if you are trying to take this family for more than they're worth and send them on their street while their son is dying." So it was ruled that we were all allowed to stay in our home. Obviously, my parents did have to get the money for him, but we were allowed to stay. We were not evicted, which was a big weight off of their shoulders. So my mom strongly believes, with all of her being, that Aunt Sally had something to do with the fact that the judge was changed. She thinks that he was changed to a more compassionate judge, and that Aunt Sally had her way in doing so. So that's one of them. And the other time, there was 2 settings. Both was Aunt Sally. The next time was actually the night that my brother did pass away. He passed away earlier in the day, but that night, of course, another sleepless night. They're grieving. They're having a very hard time coming to grips with things. Although it was expected, it was still very heartbreaking. And Aunt Sally, once again, came into her bedroom, sat at her feet, and said, "Don't worry, he's with me now." And just, again, sat there with her until she fell asleep. So, yeah, like I said, they're kind of comforting stories, more than scary stories, which is kind of nice because usually it's mysterious or whatever, but I think they're kind of nice stories. Like I said, there are definitely more stories about my family, but if I didn't tell you the context of what was going on at the time, I don't think it would have been as powerful or as moving. So there you go. And I mean, like I said, my parents were going through a hard time. For all we know, my mom was having a hard time sleeping. For all she knew, she hallucinated it, but she likes to tell the story, and it I don't know, do with it what you will.
Okay, wow, that was really cool. And like she said, usually when people share some kind of a, paranormal encounter, it's kind of creepy and scary, and that would give me comfort for sure.
Yeah.
In that situation.
No, that was the awesome stories. Thank you so much for sharing those with us. The landlord was a dick. Yeah, I mean, I understand that it's his legal right to do that.
Douchebag move, though.
It is a douchebag move. There's got to be a line where just being a good human being comes before
financial gain.
Yeah. When I lived in my old apartment complex, I lost my job. I got laid off, and they jacked up my rent. Oh. And my landlord went to fight for me and threatened to quit unless they let me keep my current rent.
Wow.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So that's what a good landlord does, not what this guy did.
Yeah. I'm a landlady, and I'd like to think that I'm a good landlady.
I hope so. Better than this guy.
Definitely.
I hope so. But yeah, the Aunt Sally stuff is super fascinating. I have a lot of friends that have had situations like that where somebody comes to visit them while they're laying in bed trying to go to sleep. And then the question is, a lot of people, I think, pass it off as hallucinations or a dream, maybe, or you had sleep paralysis asleep. Or a dream. But it happens so much that my personal opinion on this is that I think people or things do come to visit us, and for some reason, we're just in such a relaxed state that we're actually able for them to reach us, to come through to us.
Our guard is down or whatever.
Yeah. So I totally believe that. I totally believe she showed up.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of switching the judges. I think that's so cool. So no, that was a great story.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
As much as I love the scary stories, I like the ones that show that there's good things that happen too.
Totally. This actually reminds me of a dream I had once that I had totally forgotten about, and it's very brief, but I'll tell it real quick. My dad's brother had passed away from congestive heart failure. This is a long time ago now. But I had a dream about him. It was pretty recent after he passed away, that when I was in high school, we were in the church choir. My family we're very musical people. And, but I don't remember him ever being there. So that's why this is kind of a strange place for him to show up. But in my dream, we were in the choir loft at my church, which I don't consider my church anymore. I'm not a religious person, but back then I was Catholic. And I remember turning and he was sitting next to me. And I remember saying to him, "Uncle Dick, I thought that you died. What are you doing?" Or no, I think I just said, "You died. What are you doing here?" Or something like that. And he turned to me and he smiled and he said, "But I'm right here."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that was it. That's all I really remember about it. It was kind of like, I'm saying, "Hey, you're gone. You died." And he's saying, "But I'm right here." Yeah. Kind of thing.
That's
so
cool.
I still remember, it's funny that I forgot about that, but that story really reminded me of that.
This isn't anywhere near the same, but when I was in my old crazy haunted apartment, when my cat Killian died, I took that very hard. Mm-hmm. And there was one night, I want to say 2 or 3 nights after she was put to sleep, where I was laying in bed. I had the lights on, and I was just miserable, still crying. And just laying there in bed, and I opened my eyes, and I saw her jump onto the end of the bed.
You saw her?
I saw her. She jumped onto the end of the bed. She walked up to my head, and then she rubbed her head against mine, and then she was gone.
Oh.
And it's like, did that really happen? I saw it.
I think so.
I saw it. Was I falling asleep, and did I dream that?
No, I think it happened.
I think it happened too.
Yeah, I think, because I'm just thinking now, wow, it's funny how this stuff comes back to you in the moment when you're talking about it. But our dog Bogart, 2 years ago,
I love Bogey.
Bogart, my baby. We had to have him put down. He was in stage 3 kidney failure, and he was just like slipping away in front of us. We put him down one day, and that same day, 2 things happened that day and the next day. My husband and I got home, and he wasn't there, and that was devastating, to walk into the apartment and not be greeted by him. We both just dropped everything and bawled our eyes out. And I'm like, we got to get out of here. We can't be here right now. So we went to this park that we'd never been to before that's near where we live. And this is a funny story. We were walking towards the beach, and all of a sudden we were both like, "Oh my God, it smells like a Bogart fart." He had the most raunchy, they were like garbage farts, as I like to call them. And we're like in the middle of the woods. Okay, maybe there could have been some carcass nearby or something, but it was,
if it smelled
ripe.
that specifically like it
smelled like a ripe garbage Bogart fart. So that made us both laugh and cry at the same time.
Yeah.
Which, that could be nothing. But then my husband went back to work, and I had to take a couple days off because I was an absolute wreck. I don't have kids. My pets are my babies. And I was in the bathroom getting ready, brushing my teeth, something, and I heard the distinct sound of, he was a big dog. He was 100 pounds. And I heard his paws. I heard him walking behind me on the carpeting, and I, without even thinking about it, I just turned to look at him, and then it hit me that he's not here. Yeah. I totally heard him walking around our apartment, and I think it happened twice, but then within a couple days, I didn't hear it again.
Yeah, it's like this stuff happens, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
So
they linger, I think, just for a little bit, just like a human would.
Bucky, our kitten, when I was dating Natalie, our kitten Bucky that died, I saw him twice in my apartment after he died.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a couple nights after he died, I was watching TV, and the end table was in front of the couch, and I was laying on the couch watching TV, and I saw him walk out from underneath the end table and just disappear. And the next night I was laying watching TV, and out of the corner of my eye I could see him sitting by the dining room table just looking at me. So that
for
stuff
just like
happens.
A second, and then they disappear. Yeah, that's
that
crazy.
Stuff happens. But we'll move on before I start crying thinking about
I know.
my cats. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Bogart.
That was an awesome story.
Yeah, awesome.
And I totally believe that she was there.
Oh, yeah. I do too.
Our next stories are from my good friend Luke.
Okay. I'm ready.
He's commented on our stuff a lot. He texts me like after every episode to tell me how much he likes it. So thanks a lot, Luke.
Hey, Luke.
He has 3 separate stories. One of them I'm involved in.
Ooh.
Believe it or not. So these are from my good friend Luke. Luke writes, "Thanks for doing the show. You guys are off to a great start, and I look forward to season number 2. Here's a couple of experiences that have made me question things." Thank you, Luke.
Yes, thank you.
Story number 1, ghost or murderer. I remember him telling me about this one, and this one creeps me out.
Ghost or murderer?
Ghost or murderer. This one creeps me out more than a ghost story.
Okay.
Late one night, probably around 10 or 11 o'clock while I was in high school, my brother and I were out shining deer. If you don't know what shining deer is,
it's illegal.
Basically, when there is nothing else to do growing up in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, you drive around aimlessly on back roads in the middle of nowhere, listen to some good music, and shine lights out in the field looking for deer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we came to one part where there was pretty thick trees on both sides of the road and no houses for quite a ways in either direction. We suddenly saw something moving on the side of the road, so we slowed down. All of a sudden, an object slowly came out of the woods on the right side of the road. We completely stopped the car, and a very old man with a white beard, raggedy old bib overalls slowly walked right in front of our car, pushing a wheelbarrow. My brother and I just stared straight ahead in complete silence and watched as he crept slowly across the road and slowly disappeared into the woods on the left side of the road. It was very unsettling how he didn't seem to notice or care that we were sitting there watching him walk right through our headlights. As soon as he disappeared back into the darkness, we looked at each other with a WTF look and sped out of there really quickly. As we were driving away, I remember us discussing how there were absolutely no houses, driveways, farms, or anything around there. We have no idea where he came from, where he was going, and what in the world he was doing hauling a wheelbarrow through the woods in the middle of the night. We never went back down that road shining deer again. It completely creeped us out.
That is so weird.
I know, that creeps me out.
Was there a body in it?
I don't know.
It was a wheelbarrow?
Was it, was he out like picking mushrooms, or was he like a moonshiner? But out in the middle of nowhere with a wheelbarrow coming out of the woods.
Yeah,
that creeps me out more
strange.
than ghost stories do. Like,
yeah, what was that dude doing?
Yeah, what is this guy doing? So that one is always kind of creepy out.
Yeah, real people are way scarier than ghosts.
Yeah,
so
they are.
Who knows what the hell that was about? All right.
Story number 2 is called "Don't Take Any Pictures." I remember this one too because
I like that he names them.
Yeah, he did show me this. The summer before my senior year in high school, my friend Brandon, who Kurt knows very well, and I went on a trip to the boundary waters of northern Minnesota and Canada. Yay, Canada. This was a guided trip that basically consisted of canoeing all day and finding different places to camp at night. I think we canoed over 100 miles in our 10 days without seeing another group, and without the guides reading the maps, I may still be lost out there. The map was one lake after another with small channels connecting most of them. Occasionally, there would be a red dot on the map that represented a campsite we could stay at for the night, and I use the word campsite very loosely. They usually had a small circle of stones for a fire pit, and if you were lucky, there would be a small hole on the backside of the island to use as a toilet. After one day of canoeing countless miles, we were starting to look for a place to set up camp. The lake we were on was part of Minnesota, but the land was on the northern side of the lake and was owned by the local Native Americans. The guide told us just to respect the land and stay on the Minnesota side. There was an island in the middle of the lake that was marked as a campsite, so we pulled in and unloaded everything to set up camp for the night. Brandon and I decided to go explore the island, and most importantly, see if we had a toilet seat or if we needed to bring a shovel. When we got to the backside of the island, I noticed there was a ring of bright feathers hanging from a tree. It almost looked like a dream catcher. When I stepped back, I noticed that there was a mound of dirt coming out from the tree with feathers on it. I then noticed that around the mound of dirt there were white birch logs perfectly laid out, making a border around the mound. It was at that point we realized the mound and the birch logs were about the same size as a grave site. It appeared something was buried under the ring of feathers and outlined with the logs. So naturally, I decided to take a picture of this and went to tell our guide about our discovery. He came back and looked at it and became very uneasy. He explained to us that it was an Indian burial mound and it looked fairly fresh. He told us we needed to pack up and move to a different location to camp for the night to respect their space, since it must have been a special spot for them. He told us not to touch anything and don't take any pictures. It was a cool experience to see, but we respected their space and moved on. I never really thought about it again until I got my pictures back from the trip. This was at the time when film still needed to get sent out and developed, and you couldn't instantly see them. As I was flicking through the pictures and reminiscing about the trip, I came across a picture of the burial mound. I immediately stopped when I saw the picture. In the picture, you could see the feather ring, mound, and white birch logs, but above the mound there was a white mist floating above it. The mist looked kind of foggy, and you sort of had to see through it, and it had a form to it. My first thought was that it was glare from the sun, but looking at the shadows of the trees, you could see that the sun was behind me. I thought maybe it was a malfunction of the camera, but as I went through the hundreds of pictures from that trip, there was not one other picture that had this white mist in it. I'm pretty sure I have shown this picture to Kurt in the past, so hopefully he can vouch for me. I can vouch for you. I remember seeing the picture.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I cannot find this picture anywhere. We have moved many times, and I don't know where it ended up, but this picture was always a good conversation piece. It was a really interesting picture. It was like the mist almost had substance, and I want to say it looked like it was swooping. Like it was, yeah, it was a strange picture. I wish he would have had a copy of that or something.
Yeah, that'd be really cool to see.
But yeah, I totally remember the picture, Luke. You're not nuts. And it was an awesome picture, and it was not a malfunction. It wasn't. It looked...
Yeah, if it was the only picture
yeah,
out of hundreds.
it looked too weird. It looked too weird.
Yeah.
So, story number 3. This is one of the ones that I'm involved in. Story number 3 is called He Never Punched Out. Back in the good old days, Kurt and I worked at the best job in the world that paid barely more than minimum wage. We worked at a small grocery store that had an amazing collection of people that worked there. One guy we worked with, Dave, was one of the nicest guys I ever met, and I will second that. I absolutely loved him. He was so awesome. He was great with everyone, and everyone loved him. Dave was a few years older than me and was like a big brother. We worked together late many nights. He always helped me out, would give me advice with any teenage drama I might have been having at the time. Anyway, one night, Dave tragically and unexpectedly passed away from complications with his diabetes. The next 3 stories all happened at that store after Dave passed away. Independently, I probably would not have thought much about these, but together and combined with the fact that they all happened shortly after Dave passed away, they made me question some things. The first happened a few days right after Dave passed, and I know Kurt remembers this one because we talk about it. Dave was notorious for always having a bottle of Diet Coke with him, and whenever he finished a bottle, he would toss it above the freezer in the back room. There was this little opening above the freezers and below the ceiling that was used for storage. It was maybe 3-foot tall opening that was very deep and ran the length of the freezers in the back of the store. There had to be hundreds, if not thousands, of bottles of soda up there from Dave over the years. And I remember him. He would always throw those up there. Well, a few days after he passed away, Kurt and I were walking through the back room together, as we always did. As we were walking, I took a soda bottle I finished and threw it up on top of the freezer like Dave always did. I believe one of us said something like, "This one's for you, Dave," and we kept walking and talking. About 20 seconds or so later, we hear a loud noise. As we turned around, we saw that the bottle I threw up there bounced off the opposite wall. Kurt and I looked dumbfounded at each other. Yeah, Kurt and I looked dumbfounded at each other, and Kurt quickly yelled, "Sorry, Dave, it wasn't Diet." We both were shocked and started laughing over what just happened. We tried debunking the situation. We couldn't figure out if it rolled back from the top and fell down. Why had it taken so long, and why had it flown across the length of the back room?
Yeah, that's weird.
And we couldn't figure out how the bottle would have hit the opposite wall, which was like 15 feet away, and it hit it that hard. It really seemed like something was up there and threw the bottle down. Really odd. Yeah, we got a ladder, and we went up there and looked, and there was nobody up there. There was nothing up there. And, he threw the bottle up there, and we talked for a little bit, and we started walking away, and it was about 20 seconds when all of a sudden the bottle came firing back down out of there.
It'd be different if it happened right away.
Yeah, and if it rolled out, it would have just like plopped over the edge. It completely
and hit the floor.
Flew through across the room and hit the wall on the opposite side. So that was weird. Yeah. That was strange. We couldn't figure out how that happened, and him and I still talk about that to this day. Next story, same from Luke. Another night, it was almost closing time. I was the night manager, and another younger kid was helping me sweep the floors. I had gone up and down every aisle and brought my broom into the back room to shake out the dust. I jumped up on the counter. I was waiting for the other guy to get back from sweeping the perimeter to combine our dust piles and sweep it all up. It was late, and I was tired. So as I waited, I remember just resting my head in my hands, covering my eyes while sitting on the counter. I heard the metal doors of the back room open and assumed it was the other kid returning with the broom, so I didn't even look up. A few seconds later, I didn't hear him come by me, so I looked up and saw the metal doors still swinging. Then I heard someone opening a locker in the break room right around the corner. So I figured it must have been someone coming back to grab something that they forgot. So I jumped down from the counter and walked into the break room to see who was there. There was only one way in and out of the break room. As I walked into the break room, the sound of someone opening their locker stopped, and there was no one there. Like I said, the only way out of the break room would have been to walk directly past me. It completely baffled me because I heard the doors, saw them moving, and I heard the distinct sound of the lockers opening, yet there was no one around. I even walked back out into the store, and there wasn't anyone in that half of the store. Totally creeped me out.
Yeah,
and
that's
I know
really creepy.
I know the break room he's talking about, and there is only one door in and out. So, yeah, if
it's interesting if it is Dave. I mean, did he love that job? Was that sort of like
we all love that job.
Yeah.
I mean, we always say that it was more getting paid to go in and hang out with friends than it was a
doing
job.
Actual work.
Yeah. I mean, everybody up to the manager of the place were just awesome friends, just good people.
Oh, that's cool.
So I could totally believe that. And on one other night, the store had closed, doors were all locked, and everyone else had left. I was the only one left in the store. I was double-checking all the doors and turning everything off, walking around the mostly dark store. The only light was the dim security lights on in the store. As I was heading to the front of the store to leave, I heard someone whistling down one of the aisles. My first thought was another employee was still there, but then I remembered that I saw the last employee leave. The doors were still locked, and I was the only one there with keys. My next thought was, crap, do we still have a customer in here? So I started walking towards the distinct noise of someone whistling. As I went up and down every aisle, the whistling always appeared to be one aisle over. I could never catch up with it.
That's really creepy, actually.
After a while of trying to find the whistling person, I started getting really freaked out. It became clear that there was no one else in the store, and I flew out of there. Of all the nights I closed, I never got creeped out by being the last one to leave, but that night I was really freaked out. I could not find a way to debunk the whistling. The more I thought about it, it reminded me of someone who was sweeping the aisles like we do every night, going up and down every aisle, whistling as they worked.
Was Dave a whistler?
I believe so.
Okay.
To this day, I don't know what to make of all these stories. If it was just one, I really don't know if I would think it's that big of a deal, but all of them together have made me think. Dave was always a loyal employee, so I like to think that maybe he was still there hanging out with us.
Aw.
And I totally could see that. Dave was just a good guy. And he was, I mean, everybody loved him. And when he died, it was just heartbreaking. I've been to both my parents' funerals. I've been to friends' funerals. But Dave's was the hardest funeral I've ever been to.
Well, and those are really specific, like whistling. What else could it be?
Yeah.
If there's no music playing, if you're the only person in the store, what else could it be? And if you're following it around for a long time and you can't, that's weird.
I was a night manager there too. There was one point where the only night managers were me or Luke. So if I wasn't there, Luke was there. And it's creepy as hell in there with the lights off when everything is locked up and you're the only one in there. It is creepy.
I imagine.
I'd never heard like this stuff. So I'm kind of glad about that because I was kind of already
really
creeped out
out
there. But I remember Luke telling me about all these stories. So
is that place still around?
It's a different store now. Yeah. It changed to another store while Luke and I were there, and then it closed for a while, and now it opened up, and it's a different store.
Is it still a grocery store?
Yeah.
Okay.
I go there a lot. And
do you want to say the name?
Sure. When Luke and I worked there, it was Food Country / Green Tree Market, and now it's Rob's Groceries.
Okay.
But I go there a lot because that was my favorite job. That's going to always be my favorite job, and I have really nostalgic feelings for that place, so I go there a lot.
Yeah.
And I could totally see this being Dave. The soda thing was weird because there was no way that soda should have came firing back down 20 seconds after we threw it up there. So yeah.
Cool stories.
Thank you so much,
awesome.
Luke.
Yeah, thanks, Luke.
Our next story is from my friend Sherry at work. She just sent these, I think, like 2 days ago. So thank you, Sherry.
Yeah.
She writes, "Hi, Krista and Kurt. I just want to start out saying I love listening to your podcast. The stories are great and your chemistry is awesome. Your stories crack me up." Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
We do have pretty good chemistry.
We do.
We do. The following are a few of my experiences. I'm not the greatest storyteller, but here goes. I have had a few things that have happened to me growing up in our old house. My sister and I shared a room, and I remember a few times waking up, looking over, and seeing an old lady sitting cross-legged on my sister's bed. But I could only see her outline. The rest of her was a dark gray and flickered almost like TV static.
That's strange.
It's strange, but I've heard that. I've heard people see things like that.
I've heard people see things like that during sleep paralysis.
I don't know if Sherry has sleep paralysis. I'll have to ask her about that. She never said or did anything, just sat there and stared. I would just pull the blanket over my head until I had the guts to finally look, and then she would always be gone.
Well, sure, that cures everything.
It does.
You just pull the blanket over your head.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I did with my green guy.
Yep.
Another thing.
No, because when you pulled it down, he was
right
still
in
your face.
He was immune to the covers.
The blanket thing, yeah.
Another thing that I remember that happened around the same age frame, approximately 9 years old, I had a sleepover at my house. We were just playing in my room, chatting and getting ready for bed when my friend whispered to me, "Sherry, look in your mirror." I turned and looked. She pointed to look at my doll in the stuffed animal net in the corner of my room. And in the mirror, what I see I can only describe as a pale, grayish face with wide, shocked eyes in place of my doll's face. That's creepy. That's really creepy.
That gave me the chills.
Yeah.
I had one of those like corner nets, by the way.
And I love the way she described. Did you?
Yeah,
totally. I never did. I love the way she describes it. She said, "If I saw something like this today, it would be similar to the face swap in Snapchat."
Snapchat, okay.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Where there's like another face over the face. We both slowly turned to look at the doll, and it's just a normal stuffed doll with the cloth-stitched face. We then turned back to the mirror again, and it's still there. We slept in the playroom that night. Yeah, I don't blame you because that creeps me out.
I might burn that doll as well.
That gave me the shivers too a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. In my house...
Mirrors. It's mirrors.
Yeah. There's a lot of people think mirrors are...
Like a vortex.
Yeah. Mirrors creep me out. I don't like mirrors.
Yeah.
When I lived in my haunted... I just remembered this now. When I lived in my haunted apartment... I bought flannel blankets and covered up the mirror in the bedroom. Really? Yeah, because I didn't want to either see anything or, anything to come through.
That's your fear that you're going to see something behind you.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. And then Sherry continues, "In my house I now own, back when we first bought it, I had something extremely weird happen to me. It was nighttime. I had just put my daughter to bed and my husband was gone. I noticed the kitchen light was on. No big deal. I must have just forgot to turn it off. As I'm going through my house, I'm noticing more lights on. I know they were turned off, so now I'm thinking my daughter woke up. I go and check on her, but she's still asleep. As I'm going back downstairs, I notice that there are lights on that there is no way my daughter could have turned on. I call my husband to see if he came home. Nope, he says. Now I'm just starting to get paranoid and checking all the doors and windows thinking someone is in the house. They're all locked, and I check under the beds and in the closets. Nothing. Every single light was on, even lamps that had pull strings, closet lights, and a lava lamp. If it was something electric, wouldn't everything turn on like the TV and radios?"
That's weird.
That is weird.
Even the lava lamp.
Yeah, that creeps me out too. Like you see in horror movies a lot where...
Like if her husband were home, I'd totally blame it on him because I come home and my husband literally has every light in the entire apartment on.
Yeah. He wasn't, and I've heard stories of that where lights come on, and I've heard of stories where all the lights come on.
That's weird.
Like hers, and that creeps me out. And finally, these last few experiences, I'm not sure if I'm just imagining it or if something is actually going on. But what happens is I could be talking to someone, or I'm just going about my day, and all of a sudden I get this strong feeling that something is there. I don't actually see anything. Sometimes I'm not even looking in that direction, but I feel/see it in my mind what would be in that spot. Example 1, my sister and I were on a weekend trip out of town visiting my aunt. We were standing and talking face to face when I just blurted out that I feel like there is a young girl about 9 years old with brown, long, curly hair in a dark red velvet dress standing to my left side. I slept with the lights on that night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's like a really...
Very detailed
description. Episode number 2, or example number 2. Example 2. I was a property manager. I was cleaning an apartment by myself in the middle of the day, jamming out to music, when all of a sudden I get a feeling that if I turn around, I will see a little boy about 5 years old in blue shorts playing with a bright red ball running after it down the hall. I did not look. I finished up quickly and left.
Wow.
So, yeah, she has these detailed pictures in her head.
So not seeing it with her own eyes, but in her mind.
Yeah.
That's
which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
In another house I've been in, it feels like there is a dark cloud in a corner ceiling in the living room. I've heard stories of that.
Yeah,
the dark cloud.
Well, it sounds like she's sensitive.
Yeah, knowing her like I do, I could see her being sensitive to that stuff. But getting the detailed pictures in her head when she's not looking is really...
That's kind of how psychics work.
Yeah, that's like psychic. That's really, really, really interesting. As you can tell, I'm a big chicken when it comes to this stuff. I still don't know if it's all in my head. Maybe someday I'll have the guts to follow through on these feelings. Thanks again for starting the podcast. Can't wait until next season. Best wishes, Sherry.
She should come on an investigation.
I wonder if she'd want to be on an
Probably
investigation.
not.
Probably not.
The sounds of it, no. But yes, thank you.
If she can see these things, maybe she would be good on an investigation.
Maybe.
Sherry, I'm going to be talking to you at work, girl.
Yeah.
Might get you on an investigation.
Hey, if you know anyone who needs an investigation done too, let us know.
It's funny when Sherry listens to our podcast on her speaker at work because I'll walk over to her department and I'll hear my voice coming and I'm like,
so
wow.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So awesome stories. Thank you,
yeah,
Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry.
You never told me some of this stuff. I'm I'm going to be talking to you a little more. Next story is from Sophie.
Sophie.
We love
She's
Sophie.
finally sharing some stories. I'm excited.
This is the one that she posted in the Strangers.
I know that
group.
she's sort of been reluctant to share some of her stories, so this is really cool.
I mean, I know.
I'm excited to hear this. She's had some weird stuff happen to her.
Ideally, I would like her and her husband, Adam, and her friend, Amy, to come here next year to be on the show.
That'd be really cool.
That would be cool. So I'm hoping that comes through. But she posted this in our Strangers group. So if you're not a member of the Strangers Facebook group, here's
Tough luck. Oh, I guess we'll read it to you. Never mind.
We still love you. Hi, guys. I'm unsure how you want me to submit this, so I will just leave it here for your personal experience to show. Kurt, as you know, I've had an odd life. That's to say the least.
An understatement.
Yeah. So when I was 20, my grandmother passed away, leaving my 94-year-old grandfather in his house alone. I moved in to care for him and was paid through the state to be there. Needless to say, a 20-year-old female living with her very traditional 94-year-old grandfather was sort of a disaster. I love my grandpa dearly, and we've had some great times, but I also have a lot of guilt over my stupid youth and rebellious behavior. I have lived there for about a year, cooking, cleaning, caring for my grandpa when he got a bad illness and had to be put in a nursing home. He passed away at 97. Fast forward 4 or 5 years. I went to a county fair about an hour away from my home. It was quite crowded. As I was making my way to the grandstand, I saw my grandpa. There he was, tiny, with his walker and his driving hat. He had this suspicious look on his face that he got every time I had friends over. He was slowly coming towards me, all determination, like always, one slow step in the walker at a time. My mouth went dry and I broke into a sweat. I don't think I could have said anything even if I tried. If it was his doppelganger, why was he there? What would an extremely elderly man be doing at a county fair all alone? We passed one another. We were in touching distance. We both turned and stared. Did he stare because I was staring? I don't know. I don't know what it means. Should I have said something? Was it my chance to apologize for uprooting his lifestyle? I don't know.
That's weird.
That's weird. And that's just a sad story.
I don't know what I would do if I saw... And it's not like she saw him in the house. Like,
no,
she's home and sees him. Like,
place.
we saw our animals or whatever. Yeah. And at a county fair.
Yeah. And
like a normal person.
It makes no sense for someone like that to be there. Like you said, by himself. So
in poor health.
You know.
Using a walker. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. That's a really, really bizarre story. But I wish she wouldn't feel guilty.
Well, yeah.
You know,
I mean, everybody was young and.
Yeah. I did stupid stuff when I was young, and she is literally one of the best people I know. Yeah. So, but you know, was it his way of, you know, I don't want to say it was like comforting to her because it sounded like he was giving
her out.
Yeah, it sounded like he was giving her the look that he
eye.
gave her, but maybe that was his way of saying I love you and you know, I'm okay.
Or I still got my eye on you.
Or still got my eye on you, so you shape up.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's a really, really cool story.
Yeah, that is cool.
Super fascinating. So thank you for sharing that, Sophie. We want to get more from you someday.
Yeah, totally.
And now we have stories from our listener, Melissa. She actually sent a lot of stories to you guys on Paranormal Palaver.
Yeah.
But in case some people didn't listen to those.
I think we only have a couple people, like maybe Kate and my co-hosts on Paranormal Palaver who also listen to the Strange Sessions. So hopefully these will be new stories to the strangers. Yeah.
So she's had a lot of stuff happen. So Krista is going to read your stories.
Hopefully I won't.
Hopefully she won't stumble through them. So these are stories from our listener, Melissa, who happens to be one of my very dearest friends. So Krista, go ahead.
Take it away.
Take it away.
So Melissa says, my very first paranormal experience happened when I was 2 years old. My parents were renting a farmhouse outside of town at the time, and my dad worked nights. I don't remember any of this, obviously, but I've been told the story many times by my parents. Apparently, I was awake early one morning and my mom and I were in the living room. She was watching TV while I played on the floor next to her. Suddenly, I stood up and started staring in the corner of the room, standing very still. My mom says I was stiff as a board, not moving at all and not making a sound, which was very unlike me. She asked what was wrong, and I replied, "There's a man," in a very monotone voice. This spooked my mom, and she grabbed me, and I snapped out of it. She didn't see anything, and I wasn't looking toward a window or the TV. She told some family members about this, and they suggested asking me what he looked like if it happened again. A few weeks later, I was outside on the back porch with my dad when I got very still again. When he asked, I said, "There's that man again," in the same monotone voice. I guess it would be more like, There's that man again.
That's just weird. That's just creepy.
Like those two twins from The Shining. Mm-hmm. My dad asked what he looked like, and I said, he's got no shirt and red paint on his hands. He didn't see anyone around. Sometime after that, my mom was sitting up reading and my dad was at work. She always had trouble sleeping in that house when he was gone. My uncle was staying with us, but he had gone to a party and was going to be gone until the next day. My mom heard the front door open, footsteps walking across the floor downstairs, and then someone rummaging around in the kitchen. The dog didn't bark and the door had been locked, so she assumed that my uncle had come home early and went to sleep. When she woke up, my uncle wasn't there and his bed hadn't been slept in. Also, there were no dirty dishes in the kitchen, but cupboard doors were open. Turns out he hadn't come home, confirmed by mutual friends at the party, and neither had my dad. But if someone else had been in the house, how did they unlock the door and why didn't the dog bark? They found out later that the previous renters left suddenly, just stopped paying rent, and when the landlords went to check on them, they were just gone and had left a lot of their things behind. That's never a good sign.
I was just going to say that. Just going to say that.
I feel like every episode of Paranormal Witness.
Yeah, pretty much.
People just leave all their crap behind and never go back. Years later, my aunt was in a car with a friend and some other people. They drove past that house, and one of the guys she didn't know said, "That house is haunted." She was shocked and said that she knew that, but how did he? He said he knew some people who rented it, and a lot of weird things happened to them there. He also said that they researched the house and found that a young man had committed suicide there. Ew. I don't know what suicide method was used, but I'm going to guess he slit his wrists. That would explain the red paint.
Yep. That's creepy.
Very creepy. My grandpa was a very religious man, and he had a different opinion. He felt that Jesus had appeared to me as a child. As an atheist, I don't agree with that. But it is another opinion. I think it was the suicide. So that's the first story.
Yikes.
Very creepy.
Yep.
And I do think that kids see stuff that we can't see because they don't have
I have so many friends that their young children have seen stuff.
Yeah.
And then get mad when the adults can't see it.
Right. My friend she and her husband and their two kids, they have twins. Well, they have another baby now, but he wasn't born yet. They were house hunting once, and when they left a house, her daughter looked up at her, and I don't know how old she was at the time, maybe 6 or something like that, and she said, "Mommy, there are people in that house."
Yeah. You don't ever want to hear that.
Just to say they did not buy that one. But she's like, I didn't know what to say, and I didn't really react, and because you don't want to make her scared or anything, but yeah, that's creepy. So her second experience here. I once had a possible out-of-body experience. I can't say for sure as I was pretty young, but this is how I remember it. I was maybe 5 or so and at my grandma's house. I had been running toward the stairs and tripped at the top. I remember sort of sticking there at the top of the stairs, but seeing my own body fall down the stairs in kind of an arc. That is to say, I didn't roll down the stairs, but more tripped, flew forward enough to miss the stairs, and then landed on the floor at the bottom. It's like the Matrix.
Yeah.
As soon as my body hit the floor, I was back in it. Oddly, I wasn't hurt at all. My mom heard the thud and came to see what happened. I just told her I was okay, and since I wasn't crying, she just walked away. As I say, I don't know if that's anything or not, but that's my memory of it. That is freaky.
Yeah, it's really freaky.
That's like some divine intervention of some kind, because she probably could have been seriously hurt. Interesting.
I think that stuff happens.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even remember if I brought this up on here, but when I was younger, we were at a hotel in Michigan, I believe, and my mom. I was in the swimming pool of the hotel, and my mom was on the deck talking to another lady, and I ventured out in the deep end, and I couldn't swim, and I was started to panic, and I was yelling to my mom, and I think she thought I was kidding because it was sloped, so I was gradually like going down to the point where I was almost under the water, and then it felt like something pushed me back up. Yeah, it was just like a real light push. Like I stopped going down, and it felt like I got pushed up to the point where I could walk again. Wow. So I think that stuff happens. I think.
Wow, I do too. You hear about people who are in horrifying car accidents where the car is completely totaled and they walk away without a scratch.
But then that makes you wonder about the people that die in like freak random accidents. Why did they die and other people don't? If we could answer that.
I know, right? It's like the whole, what are those movies? Final Destination.
Yeah.
Like there's a divine plan sort of thing.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do to try to thwart it,
Yeah.
when your ticket is stamped, that's when you're going. It doesn't matter. I guess that kind of is how it is.
Yeah.
You know, the day you are born, your death is already predetermined.
Wow, that's
dark. It's deep shit there.
That is.
We actually just talked about this at work today because my coworker's dad just passed away. So we were getting kind of.
You should crochet that on something so I can hang that in my living room.
What? From the second you're born, your death is already predetermined.
Yeah.
Nice and light and inspirational.
Christmas is coming up.
Yeah. Okay, next story from Melissa. When I was between the ages of 6 and 10, I often had trouble sleeping. Sometimes I would see shadows of things moving around in my room at night, and on a few occasions I saw glowing red eyes in my closet.
Yuck.
No. Often I would hear a very deep, demonic voice talking from the hallway, usually saying, "Melissa," and "come out here."
Yuck.
This voice, maybe it was the green dude.
That might have been. He didn't say nothing to me. He just smiled at me.
This voice was exactly how you'd imagine a demon talking. It didn't sound human at all. One time I was holding my teddy bear for comfort, and when I looked at him, I swear he blinked at me. My mom said all this was nightmares, and I suppose it could have been, but I'm not so sure. Even at that age, I knew the difference between being scared by a bad dream and being scared by something that happened. It stopped after we moved away from that place, and I've never had trouble sleeping anywhere else. I still have that teddy bear, and he's still in my bed. A few years ago, I told my daughter, then about 10 years old, about him blinking at me, and she got a very strange look on her face. She said he also blinked at her once, but she figured she must have imagined it.
Wow. I just got shivery.
Burn that teddy bear.
That is creepy.
That's really creepy.
Maybe it's like a guardian angel kind of teddy bear.
Maybe. I guess all it's done is blink at people, so.
I think that's cool. I don't know. I find that comforting. You know. I don't know.
I have to see it myself.
Teddy bears are comforting. I think.
Maybe. I'm picturing like a really ratty looking evil teddy bear.
Like that doll. What's that doll's name? Philip? Is that the...
Isn't it Annabelle?
No, there's a couple possessed dolls. I see some for sale on eBay a lot. So.
And you're bidding on those, right?
Your Christmas presents.
How sweet.
For your new place.
Oh, I'll bury it in the backyard. Okay, next story from Melissa. She does have a lot. I remember these, actually. These are good stories. When I was 10 or 11, our pet canary died. He was quite old and hadn't sang in years, but he would chirp. Older canaries often won't sing anymore. After he had died, all of us heard him singing, chirping, and the sound of him hopping around his cage for a few months afterwards. I don't know if that was some residual energy thing or what, but my mom, dad, and 4-ish-year-old brother heard it also on several occasions. I mean, that just
there's more
harkens back to us hearing our pets.
To the pet stuff
For several months, though. That's interesting.
Do they do that to comfort us? Do they do that because it is residual energy,
or they don't know they're gone,
or they don't know they're gone?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a common theme we're seeing, though.
Yeah.
Ooh, a grocery store
Woo-hoo.
Story. I used to work as a bookkeeper at a grocery store, so I went to work at 5 a.m. There was a cemetery in the middle of town on my way to work. Things started happening when I drove past one specific spot of the cemetery. Once I saw a shadow standing freely under a street light.
Ew.
By that, I love your reactions. Ew. Ew. By that, I mean there was a dark shadow in the middle of a spot of light, which just doesn't seem possible. But I couldn't see anything casting it, and the shadow was too dark and well-formed for it to be something that was actually on the bulb of the streetlight, which makes sense. Yeah. It started small, grew to the size of an adult man, then shrunk down to cat size before disappearing just as I got to it. It's like a shapeshifter.
Yuck, that is disturbing.
Yeah. Once all the garbage in my van, some papers and a few empty cans, blew to the back all at once.
Wow.
All of the windows were rolled up. It was January, and the heat wasn't on. It was an older van and took too long to start blowing warm, and it was a short drive to work. Once the back seat came off its hinges and was pushed back against the back door.
Wow.
While she's driving? That's crazy. I didn't hear anything and only noticed it once I was at work. I had 2 baby sun visors, and once both of them rolled up and popped off the windows at the same time. Is this all happening like while she's driving past the cemetery?
I don't know. I'd sell that car.
You're right. I can see that happening to one, but both at the same time. Once a pop can, Where is she from?
Minnesota.
Pop. She's drinking pop.
Yeah.
The lady from Minnesota drinks pop.
I think we might have
See
had
the irony in there.
I think we might have had an episode where we talked about
Pop
the
versus
noises.
soda.
No, the noise out in the hallway that was the bubbler. But then I think somebody asked me what a bubbler
What's a bubbler?
is. If
It's
you're
a
not
water
from
fountain.
Wisconsin, it's a water fountain. But in Wisconsin, it's a bubbler.
It's a bubbler.
And soda is soda. We don't call soda pop.
I did up north. People up north call it pop.
No,
I grew up calling
it's
it pop.
not. It's soda.
That's funny, right?
Ugh.
I heard you say aunt before. Yeah, we don't do that either.
What do you mean?
It's aunt.
Oh, it's aunt.
No, it's aunt. Or auntie. I have some aunties on my dad's side. Isn't that weird? I never heard aunt until I moved to this area.
Really?
Yeah, nobody says that up north or in the Milwaukee area either.
We could also get into hot tamales and sloppy joes.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. That's for another podcast.
It's for another podcast. Anyway.
Okay. So once a pop can flew out of the cup holder, landed at a 45-degree angle, and stayed that way for at least 10 to 15 seconds before falling over.
What the hell?
Long enough for me to start feeling weird about how long it was balancing in a moving vehicle. Once, air started blowing out of the vents. Hard. Remember, I didn't turn on the heat because it was crappy. The dial was turned to the off position. I would just assume it was because of an old and cruddy vehicle, but when added to the other things... ...
That's weird.
This went on every day for about 2 weeks before I decided I had to do something. So it is while she's going by the cemetery. I went to that spot in the daytime and realized that all the graves in the area were for children. Apparently that's a section where they bury children when the family doesn't already have a family plot. So I went to the store and bought a stuffed animal, then went back. In the middle of this area, there was an angel statue. I put the stuffed animal next to it and said out loud something like, "You are all very silly and I care about you, but you are scaring me, so please stop." Nothing ever happened on my way to work after that.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is... Yikes.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It is. It sounds like pranks, though.
It sounds like kids,
I mean?
like mischievous kids.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
wow.
That is... It's
I
interesting.
don't want to go to the cemetery.
Yeah. I don't want
This
to
is in
drive...
Minnesota.
Don't want to drive past it.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. In my old apartment, I would often see the form of a black cat on the lawn outside our patio door. There was never a cat or anything else when I'd look again. The cat, and she's using quotes around that, would be in various places when I saw it. If it always seemed to be in the same spot, I would assume there was a more shadowed place or something, and that's what I was seeing, but no. So she's saying that if it were just always in the same spot, maybe it was a shadow.
Yeah, but it's not.
Also in this apartment, I'd see flashes of light occasionally. We were in the back of the building with trees behind, so there was no chance that it was car lights coming through the window or anything. Once a friend was visiting me, and we were standing at the patio door looking out. I sensed what I took as my daughter walking up behind us and stopping between us. I looked down and nothing was there. Oddly, my friend also looked down at the same spot at the same time because she had also thought my daughter was there. My daughter wasn't even in the room. This friend also had a lot of weird experiences happen to her over the years, including being scratched in the shower like Kurt was.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Another story. All these are from her, right?
Yes.
That I'm reading here?
Yep.
Okay. My mom used to work for a construction company and hardware store. She worked in the office and was also the nighttime cleaning lady. That place was very haunted. Even the large, burly construction guys wouldn't stay and work late after dark. Pretty much everyone who worked there had some experience, but I'll only tell you the things I've witnessed personally. When I was home for the summers in college or for a visit, sometimes my mom would send me there to get started on the cleaning before she came. Twice I saw a shadow person. Once it was walking directly at me and only missed going through me because I jumped out of the way.
Wow.
That really creeped me out.
Yeah.
The other time it was just going across the room for about 10 seconds before disappearing. Neither one seemed to react to me at all. More than once, I heard a chipper female voice say, "Melissa," in a sort of, "Are you there?" kind of tone. So, Melissa.
Yeah.
kind of tone. I would think my mom had come, but when I checked, I was the only one there. Doors locked and no car in the lot but mine. Once I walked in and heard someone say, "Hi," very clearly. I said, "Bye," and walked out until my mom came. Laugh out loud.
Don't blame her.
Wow.
When
something knows your name, that's creepy.
That happened a lot at JFK Prep.
Yeah.
On my
you
audio.
had that recording.
Yeah, on my audio, and it happened in other buildings. On my audio, there were a lot of just random voices saying Kurt or asking like Kurt.
That's weird.
You know, so it was like, I don't know
if it's like it knows you there.
Well, I don't know if that's because when we're on investigations and we're trying for EVP, a lot of times we say like, my name is Kurt. Can you tell me what your name is?
Yeah.
You know, so I had a lot of voices that sounded like they were saying Kurt.
I don't like it.
No.
It creeps me out. The worst was the back room, though. It's where the large bins for the garbage were. My mom never saw or felt anything back there, but I sure did. The first time she asked me to bring the garbage back, I took one step into the room and felt an overwhelming feeling of hate and anger wash over me. I don't know how else to describe that. It was like being hit with a wave. I felt it physically and emotionally. The room seemed to darken, but that may have just been me reacting to the feeling. I dropped the garbage and got the heck out of there. I never went back in that room. I wouldn't even go near the door. Just looking at it made me nervous. I don't know what's in there, but I do know it didn't want me there, and I'm going to let it have its way on that. I've never felt anything like that before or since. Freaky.
Yeah. I've only felt that kind of unease in a couple places. As many investigations as I've been on.
Well, 3 times. Yeah. The first EVP session in the basement.
The first EVP session in the basement at Vicky's.
When that thing breathed in my ear at Vicky's.
Yeah. When you and I were there by ourselves in the building.
In that back hallway.
In the back hallway in the basement.
With the lights on.
And when we did the overnight stay in Mansfield at the abandoned penitentiary, up in the very highest place you could get in the prison was the old tuberculosis ward.
Yeah.
I felt that way in there. I just did not want to be in there.
I felt that way in the vault in the salon.
Yeah, I didn't feel weird in the vault.
Oh, I didn't like that. So, moving on. A lot of odd things happened in the house I lived in before my current apartment. It was an old house, about 100 years old. Twice I saw a little girl on the back deck. Both times I saw a brief glimpse of a young, blonde girl in a white dress, but there was nothing and no one there when I looked back. One night I was getting ready for bed. We had a dog, but my ex-husband had gone somewhere and had taken the dog with him. I was on the second floor of the house when I heard a rattle, like the sound of dog's collar and tags, and then a little boy's voice saying, "Good dog." Mm-hmm. This was very clear and sounded like it was in the room with me. Now, the neighbors across the street did have dogs and 2 young boys, so it's very possible that it was them. I don't know why they would still be awake and outside at 11 p.m., though. But I do try to find other explanations for things that happened to me, and that could easily be one. I have to say, though, there is a difference in how voices sound if they are said loudly from a distance versus something said in the room with you. That's very true.
Yep, I remember her telling me about this.
Even if you hear it at the same volume. This sounded like it was in the room with me. It was spoken, not yelled. And although I often have my windows open, I never once heard the dog chains or boys talking from across the street. Not even when I could see them outside. So it was either something weird or a very, very odd trick of acoustics, which is possible.
It is, but I don't know.
Kind of unlikely.
Yeah.
I often joked that we had pixies in our house. Little things would go missing. Most common was the twist ties off of bread bags. Does she have cats?
I was just going to say,
that's
my cat
weird shit that cats do.
Yeah.
Hair ties. Oh,
like I said, I could buy her a $30 toy and she'll bat around a
hair tie or a twisty tie.
Yep.
I'd take the tie off and set it right next to my plate, make my sandwich, and when I'd go to put the tie back on, it was gone. Nowhere to be seen, not on the floor or anywhere on the counter. This happened to all of us. This is like poltergeist type stuff. We did have a cat, but she was too old to jump on the counter. But the weirdest was when my ex-husband sent me a text asking if I had unplugged the microwave. I said no, and honestly, I don't even know where the plug was. The microwave was mounted on the wall above the stove, so I'd never seen the plug. He said that he went to use it, and it wasn't working, and when he looked, it was unplugged. I found out when I got home that to get to the plug, we had to stand on top of the counter and reach down into a box made of sheetrock above the microwave.
Wow.
That box blocks the plug and smoke vent from view. He could barely reach it, so there's no way our daughter would have been able to, and she's also said she didn't know that the plug was back there. I'm not saying paranormal, but very odd.
It is weird.
It's strange. Yeah, that's poltergeist type stuff.
Yeah.
Like weird, mischievous, things go missing, you know.
That's the same with Sherry's with the lights.
The lights turning on. Yeah. After he plugged it back in, it worked just fine. I had just used it the day before, and it had worked fine then also, and it was a tight plug, so I doubt it just fell out. So, this last one is about the EVP.
Yeah.
So, She just explains this. Are we going to play
I remember.
the audio
We'll
then?
play the audio. I remember this because we were friends texting and stuff when this happened. So
well, and I know I had listened to it before, but we listened to it before we started recording today, and I was shocked because I heard what's in it, and I was like, okay, is it after this person is done talking? Because it's so clear that
no, that's the EVP.
That's the EVP. I was surprised. I've heard it before, but I had forgotten that. So just explaining what this clip is going to be. I was taking a video of my cat and dog for the app 1 Second every day.
I told her about that.
Yeah, I remember you doing that.
Yeah, it's a cool app. You take video for like a month every day. You take a little video of something or other. You pick like 1 second out of each of these videos every day, and then at the end of the month, it strings them together to make a 30-second clip of 1 second bits of video. So you get to basically see your month
in 1 second.
In 1 second intervals, and it's really cool.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
At the time, I was home alone, except the pets, and the TV was off, and we didn't have a radio. The dishwasher is going, and you'll hear that in the background. I didn't say anything because I didn't want my voice in the video, and I didn't hear anything until I watched it after. But when I did, I had a pretty clear EVP. I can't tell what it is saying at all. It actually doesn't sound like English to me, and actually when you played it for me before, that's what I said. It doesn't sound like English. Which makes sense, I guess. Not every ghost is going to speak English.
True.
Although some people do have a theory that wherever you are, whatever is going to communicate with you is going to do it in a way that you can understand. But
I don't know.
But I've heard
know.
EVPs in other languages.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah. But if anyone has any insight into what she is saying, and it clearly sounds like a female,
yes,
please let me know in the Facebook group. Kurt had an idea when I sent it to him, but I don't really hear it.
And I don't remember. I can't remember what I think. I listened to that like 10 times in a loop, and I can't remember what I think it said.
Yeah, and she said she doesn't want to skew.
Yeah, which is good because I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
If I get an EVP, I tell everybody what I think it says, and then that's all they can hear.
That's all they can hear. That's how it works.
So we are going to play that clip for you right now. This is the clip that Melissa was talking about, and I want to say a couple seconds into the clip, you can hear a very obvious female voice say something. We are going to play the EVP twice in a row for you. You hear the voice, and then there's some silence after it, and then we will play it again, so you will hear it twice in a row. Here is the clip.
Oh, geez.
Okay, and now we are going to play it again.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I don't know. This is really intriguing.
Yeah,
I think that's
there's
a really
obviously
good
a voice. There's obviously a voice. It has that weird,
not full voice quality, but
no, it's got like a breath, not a breathy, but like a almost, I want to say like electronic sounding. Like there's a sound to it that EVPs have.
Yeah,
like you said, airy, like an airy kind of sound. Mm-hmm. So there's obviously a voice there. I don't think it's Melissa. No idea. So if you guys have any idea what that is saying, please
let us know.
Let us know in our strangers group. You can email us, put it in the Strange Sessions group. Let us know.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome stories. And
some of those I knew and some of those I didn't.
Oh, cool.
So
I remember all of them from the Paranormal Palaver episode.
I love the blinking teddy bear. I don't know what it is, but I just find that like super fascinating.
It freaks me out when anything doll-like does anything it shouldn't do.
Yeah. Dolls are creepy. Teddy bears aren't. Totally. That's my personal opinion.
I'm going to find a picture of a really creepy teddy bear and send it to you.
There's no such thing as a creepy teddy bear.
Yes, there is. Okay, were you going to talk about dreams?
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up in a future episode when we discuss dreams or something like that, but God only knows when we're going to actually get to that.
Did we talk about sleep paralysis at all on Strange Sessions?
Yeah, we did a little bit.
Okay.
I think when we did Shadow People, we talked about it.
Oh, maybe.
So I was going to save this for another episode, but I figured the personal experiences one is good. Plus this second dream, I kind of want to get out there because this one is like really specific. And some of my friends know it, some of my friends don't. But the first dream I'm going to talk about, it happened I must have been in my mid-20s, early to mid-20s. My brother and I went down to Mississippi with my dad because my dad lived down there.
Okay. Oh, really?
And, yeah. And we stayed at a hotel. And that's where I had this dream. And there are 2 dreams that I've had in my life where I woke up and I was like, that meant something. That was significant.
Okay.
So in this dream, I'm standing on a hill, like made up of gravel and rocks, like broken rocks. I'm looking out at the landscape, and the landscape all around me is just like dry, cracked, burnt desert ground where there's cracks everywhere and there's like dead sagebrush and all that, just like desolate. As far as you can see in any direction, that's all I can see. And the sky above me is like orangish red.
It's like post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, it's just like bright orange red. So I'm standing on this hill looking out at this. And all of a sudden I hear the sound of movement behind me. And I don't turn around. I just keep looking. And all of a sudden there's a girl standing at my side. And this is verbatim. She says, "Do you know where we are?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "We're in hell." And I said, "I know, but I wasn't going to let you go through this alone." And then I woke up.
That gave me the chills.
And it's weird because I woke up and I literally do not know how to describe this, but it was like a thunderbolt when I woke up. Like it like shook me, and I woke up and I was like, "Oh my God."
You've never told me that.
I've never like woken up. Like it was like a thunderbolt. That's the only way I can think of to describe my waking up.
Wow.
And I was like, that means something, and I don't know what, and it's not good.
I feel like you're that kind of person, though.
That's what somebody else said that I told.
That's your personality.
Yeah,
you wouldn't let people go through things alone.
No, it's somebody else said the same
friend.
exact thing.
Yeah.
But that was verbatim. That was the dream. I was standing on this hill.
We're in hell.
A girl, I could hear like the rocks as she came walking down to my side. And I didn't look at her, but she was standing by my side so I could see her out of the corner of my eye. And that's exactly.
Do you remember what she looked like at all?
No. That was exactly our exchange.
How old were you?
20s, maybe
How old
early.
was the girl?
I don't know. But that was the exchange of words.
That's crazy.
"Do you know where we are?" "Yes, we're in hell." "I know, but I wasn't going to let you go through this alone."
Wow.
So yeah, that's my first one.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And
powerful.
Yeah. And like I said, I can't describe the feeling I had when I woke up from that, but it was insane.
Wow.
Like just insanely powerful. So I have no idea what that means. It's not good, whatever it is. But yeah.
Okay.
And this second one, a lot of my friends know because I've talked about this in the past. And this one is like so strangely specific. It might pop into your head.
Okay.
This happened when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I don't exactly remember when. But in the dream, I was shopping at Yonkers, which, for those of you that don't know, it's a department store like JCPenney or Macy's,
Sears,
or Kohl's.
Whatever, yeah.
They sell clothing and stuff.
Tools,
yeah.
Whatever.
So I was shopping at a Yonkers, and I think I was buying like pants and a shirt. So I had them in my hand, and I went to the checkout counter, and I remember this specifically. The checkout counter, there was a girl working behind the counter. She had long blonde hair and a pink sweater. So I hand her my stuff, and she rings it up, and then she tells me what the total is. So I look down, and I take my wallet out of my pocket, and I'm getting the money out of my wallet, and all of a sudden, I see her hand shoot forward and grab my wrist. And I look up, and it's a completely different girl. And she says, "Kurt, you need to find me when you wake up." She said, "My name is Amy Mertz."
Oh, my God.
It's MERTZ. She made me repeat it 3 times so I would remember it. She made me spell it 3 times. And then she said again, "You have to find me when you wake up."
Do you know this person?
No.
Have you Googled her name recently?
And that was the dream. She said, "Kurt, you need to find me when you wake up."
So you said she was a different person. What did she look like?
I don't know.
Damn it.
I remember what the original girl looked like. I remember she had long blonde hair and a pink sweater, but I don't remember what this Amy Mertz looked like.
I'm of course Googling that.
Yeah, you are. You were. But that was, and I woke up and I was like,
that's crazy.
Those are the 2 dreams I've had in my life where I wake up and I'm like, that meant something.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, I was friends with a girl that lived in Ireland named Catherine.
Okay.
And I told her about this. And then I started getting like weird emails because this was pre-Facebook. She Googled Amy Mertz's in Wisconsin and she was sending them emails telling them about my dream.
That's insane.
And to get back to me if it meant anything to them. So I'm like, now I look like a complete whack job. So I have these miscellaneous Amy Mertz's across Wisconsin being like, I have no idea what any of this is about. Stay away from me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
none of these people jump out at me. So
that dream has always stayed with me, and it sounds.
Are you gonna die someday if you meet an Amy Mertz?
Yeah, that's what kind of why I wanted to get this on the podcast. I mean, if there's a chance that an Amy Mertz listens to this, and it sounds dumb, but there's a big part of me that has always felt guilty because I did not find this person.
Well, there's a lot of Amy Mertz's
I know.
out there.
If you go on Facebook, I did it today. If you go on Facebook and look up Amy Mertz, there's a ton of Amy Mertz's. But I mean, she made me repeat her name 3 times. She made me spell it. And she kept saying, you need to find me when you wake up. It's important. So I suck. I didn't find her.
Wow.
And that's always been with me. And that's something I feel strangely guilty about is that I never found this.
That would haunt me for sure.
Yeah, it does. And those are the only 2 dreams I've ever had where they're significant. For the most part, my dreams are run-of-the-mill weird.
Have you ever had recurring dreams?
Oh, there's 3 things that are constantly in my dreams.
Okay.
They are bookstores / libraries. Those are always in my dreams.
Okay.
The second most prevalent thing is an elevator. And I'm always going up in an elevator, and then once it gets towards the top, it starts to sway.
Ooh.
Which isn't good. But I've never in my life had a nightmare.
Have you had like the falling dreams?
Yeah. Yeah. But the number one thing that is constantly in my dreams, that's in almost every dream I have, is a college campus.
I had dreams like that too.
And it's always a college campus. And some of them I could map them out because I know them so well from dreaming about them all the time.
That's strange.
But I mean, I don't think those are psychic. But these 2 dreams, the one in the hill, in hell, and the Amy Mertz dream. So
that's interesting. I'm really intrigued by this Amy Mertz thing.
I never told you about that?
No.
Yeah, some of my friends know about that, and they're like, wow, it's so specific. Where did this
really
name?
Specific.
So Amy Mertz, if you're listening, get to me, please.
Yeah, we need to know what you need help with.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're so late.
Sorry, I'm so late. But hey, you could have sent me a text better than a dream message. It might have, I could have maybe got to you quicker.
Yeah, wow.
But I still, to this day, sometimes if I'm bored, search for Amy Mertz's on Google or Facebook.
That would drive me crazy.
It does. I mean, I have no question that dream meant something significant.
Absolutely.
And I missed out on it.
Where would that come from?
I don't know. But
Why
it was
your
weird
brain
because
just
I
make
can
that
still
up?
see, like I'm looking in my wallet getting the money and I see her hand shoot forward and grab my wrist. Look up and it's a totally different girl. And she's like, Kurt, you need to find me when you wake up. So, yeah. So that's my Amy Mertz dream.
Wow.
Yep.
All right, Amy. We're waiting.
Call me.
Yeah. Kurt's number is. Just kidding. Wow.
So, yeah.
Good stuff.
That is good
stories.
stuff. Thank you, everybody, for sending in your stories. That was awesome. We didn't know if we were going to get anything, so I kind of wanted to hold on to my dream stuff just in case we got absolutely nothing.
Yeah, we're almost an hour and a half in, so I think we did
pretty
pretty
good.
good.
On time. So you guys did great. Thank you so much. The stories were all awesome.
Yeah, really good
They seriously
stuff.
were. Every one of those was awesome. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna try to do this again in a future episode, but
totally.
hopefully we get
more listeners with more stories.
So that's a wrap on season
finale.
1.
Yeah, crazy.
It's been a blast.
It really has.
It means the world to us that you guys choose to listen to us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, there are thousands of podcasts out there. So
yeah,
it helps that we know most of you.
Yeah, it helps that we're friends with most of you.
For a fact, there are people listening that we don't know. So
yeah,
that's pretty
so
cool.
Thank you guys for listening. We really want to get better at this. So I'm going to personally try to figure out some stuff for next season and try to get better at some of the stuff we do. If you guys have any suggestions about stuff we could do or change or anything, please get back to us. You guys are really good with that. You can, a lot of you guys are pretty active in our Strangers Facebook group.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Or email us or...
Yeah, rate, subscribe, share.
Yep. Do all that stuff.
All that fun podcasty stuff that people do.
So we will be back in a couple months.
Yeah. 2018.
It's probably going to end up sooner than we expect because we're going to be like, God, I kind of miss this.
We're jonesing for a podcast episode.
And a lot of my friends that I talked to in person that listen to this said that they're going to be sad when we're gone for a little while. Aww. So we'll probably come back sooner than later.
Yeah.
And we'll have a whole new batch of episodes. And
this is Wisconsin, so it may be weather permitting, but we'll see.
It's weather permitting. In winter, you can't really, this is an hour drive for me to get here. So
yeah.
God knows what kind of winter we're going to have. Hopefully it's like this where it's almost 60 degrees.
Amazing.
That
and
would be
soon,
amazing.
I'm moving. My husband and I are moving, so we'll be able to carpool part of the way.
So you'll be closer, which will be awesome.
Yeah.
So that's that.
That's a wrap.
Thank you guys so much for listening. And from both Krista and I, we hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Stay safe.
Happy New Year. Yeah, stay safe. And we'll still be around in the Facebook groups, and we'll be in touch. So thank you so much for listening. We will see you in a couple months. So until then.
Until next season.
Stay strange.
This has been an Old School Media production, executive produced by Kurt Konechny. For more information and content, please visit strangesessions.com.